So let me ask you this now, which is an interesting and somewhat different discussion. What's your feeling on the cinematic verse of the Marvel, universe?
Look! Look, the dynamic duo! I got
Universe, like what they've translated, whether it's from the animated to the movies, what you're feeling, seeing some of your work being translated into the big screen.
Well, I can only really talk about the the actual movies because I don't watch a lot of the animation.
Okay.
All right, and I've seen all of the Marvel movies, and I think they're doing a fabulous job. I love the Marvel movies, even though the weak ones are still pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have enjoyed every one of those things, and I think they were, man, they Thor Ragnarok, Captain Marvel,
no.
Black Panther, Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity Gauntlet, even the Ant-Man movies. I mean, boom, 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 home run after home run after home run. I'm watching these things thinking, oh, these are so great, and I'm just really enjoying them.
It's funny. Let me cut you off for a little bit. The running joke of the show is my hatred for Thor Ragnarok. I hate that movie, and I often cite your work as good. Yeah, Kevin always laughs when I do that. But I cite your work. I go back to the Kirby Stan Lee work, the Stan Lee John Buscema work, to say that's Thor. That's a good Thor story. So anyway, that was just a little anecdote. I have to drop in my I hate Thor Ragnarok movie.
I think that's such a terrific film. The sense of humor, the action.
You're killing me, Tom. You're killing me. You're killing me, Tom. Come on, Tom.
It's not the comic. It's not the comic books, but it doesn't have to be the comic books.
But listen to me very carefully. That story that you wrote, when Thor fights the Celestial and he saves that planet and he has to rescue that planet, the impact, the pathos, the drama, the come on, we haven't seen that. We have not. And I guarantee you this, if we were to translate that story and a whole bunch of others, by the way, that you wrote into the movie screen, it would blow things out of the water. So I don't want to get into a debate with you whether or not Thor Ragnarok was good, but for the record, it was a horrible movie. But anyway, that's
yeah. My favorite scene in the Thor Celestial thing.
Yes, please.
Was when Thor. When Thor faces the first Celestial, I forget what he's called, or is it the first Celestial or the Executioner? No. When he faces Exitar, the Executioner.
Okay. Yes.
The first thing Thor does is he gives him a chance to surrender. And then when the Celestial ignores him, he's angry about how rude he is.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
To me, that was Thor.
That's a great story, by the way. That is just an excellent story. Can you tell me a little bit about, and forgive me, Kevin, again, I'm a little jumping in, and feel free to jump in. Can you tell me a little bit about that process, that energy, as you're writing that story? Tell me a little bit of what's going on in your mind. Are you excited? Are you like, yes? Are you? What's going on when you write and at the end of it, do you go, yeah, I nailed this one?
Well, that story was going to be our tryout story. All right, I'm going to give you some boring background.
Please.
So Ron Friends and I were looking for an assignment to do. We had been off Spider-Man. I had been sent to England for about 6 months. I come back and Ron and I were trying to figure out you know, we had had such a good time on Spider-Man, find an assignment we could work on together. And we found out that Daredevil needed a new creative team. So we got together, we put a bunch of ideas together for Daredevil, and I went in to talk to the editor, Ralph Macchio. And I said to Ralph, listen, Ron and I would like to apply for Daredevil. And Ralph looked at it and said, oh, yeah, you guys would probably be very good on Daredevil. I said, yeah, I'd like to sit down and discuss things. And he said, I really don't have time to discuss it now because Thor is very late and I really have to get a fill-in done really quickly. And I said, you're really stuck for a fill-in? You need it quick? He said, yeah. I said, well, Ron and I are not busy. You know, maybe we could do a fill-in for you. And he says, well, what ideas do you have? I said, none right now, but we'll, you know, I'll come in tomorrow and I'll give you an idea. And Ron and I did a fill-in. I don't know, it was either a Secret Wars fill-in or the future Thor. One of those was the film. So we worked on that. We did it quickly for him. And he said, yeah, you know, I'm not ready to talk about Daredevil, but I could use another Thor film. Can you do another Thor film? I said, yeah, sure. And then we did the other one. I forget which order they came in. And then he said, he came in, he said, listen, you know, I really want you and Ron to take over a book for me. I said, Daredevil. He said, no, Thor. And I said,
Wow.
We can't do Thor. He said, what do you mean you can't do Thor? I said, we don't do cosmic. You know, I'm a street guy. I don't do cosmic like Thor. He says, you just did 2 fill-ins. And I said, I can do fill-ins on anything. You know, I can do a fill-in on it, you know, anything, but I can't write a series on it. He says, come on, I want you guys to do Thor. Can you at least take a shot at it? And I called Ron and I said, you know, he wants us to do Thor. And Ron says, I love Thor. I thought it would be out of our range. He says, I didn't even know Thor was open. And he says, yeah, let's do Thor. And I said, well, with Thor, you got to come up with big ideas, cosmic ideas.
Absolutely.
He says, come on, come up with something. What can you think of? And I thought, and I said, I don't know. Maybe we could do something with the Celestials. And then we started talking. And we came up with the basic idea for the Celestials story. So I said to Ralph, listen, we're going to do a Thor story with the Celestials. And I kind of described the story. And he says, is that 2 issues? And I said, no, I think it's 1 issue. And Ralph says, no, I think it's 2 issues. And I said, well, let me see if I can do it in 1 issue. So I started working on it, and Ron and I talked, and we talked. I said, no, I guess it is 2 issues. And then as we worked it out a little bit more, we said, oh, wait a minute, I guess it's 3 issues. So we, you know, Ron started to work on the 1st issue, and then I turned in the plots for the 2nd and 3rd issue. And Ralph said to me, hey, Tom, you know how you said you don't do cosmic, you and Ron don't do cosmic? I said, you guys are so full of shit. I'm never going to believe anything you're going to tell me again. And then, you know, then we were on Thor. And, you know, once we were on Thor, we were on Thor for a long time.
That was a great run. Great. Again, hearkening back to, it gave me, reading your material, and we talked to Ron about this, and he did it purposefully at times. And I wonder what your take is on it, but it harkened back to the good, you know, the good old days, the classic, the Lee, the Kirby, the Buscema's, the good stuff. You know what I mean? Well,
you know, I've always thought, figure out what the book is supposed to be about, and get to the essence of that concept. And you know, I think these days people forget that, you know, a series is supposed to be about something. They think it's just supposed to be about the story that they have. But no, there's got to be more to it than that. What does this series tell us about the human condition?
Absolutely.
and I used to look at Thor, and I said, Thor is like an old, an old Jewish man who owns a deli. He owns a deli, and his dream is that someday his son is going to take over the deli. But the son says, "Hey, Dad, we don't want to have just one deli. We want a franchise. We want to have 100 delis." And I said, "That's Thor. Odin, his job is to protect Asgard.
Interesting.
And he wants
Interesting.
his son to take over and protect Asgard." And Thor is going, wait a minute. Aside from protecting Asgard, we should protect Earth. We should protect.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Protect, all these other alien creatures and all these other alien beings. We're going to franchise that. We're going to protect the whole universe because we've got all this power. We should be doing more. And that was the conflict. When Stan and Jack were doing it, all Odin wanted him to do is marry a nice Asgardian girl.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Oh my God. And these were the kind of things we could all identify with.
Absolutely. That was the key. That was the key.
And Mr. DeFalco, I have to jump in here because you've mentioned Daredevil a few times in the last few minutes. And I've always been curious about something. I even mentioned this to Franz yesterday when we were prepping for the show. I've always been curious, out of all of the other characters that Marvel had, Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, etc., was there a reason why Daredevil was never given an opportunity to have an animated series? I know he showed up as a guest on a couple of other, folks' shows and what have you, but was there a conscious decision as to why he was never given his own show?
I have no idea. I could make a guess. In the early days, we had trouble getting Spider-Man on television.
Really?
Yeah, there was a period of time we couldn't give our licenses away.
That's right. That's right.
You look at the Marvel movies now, and you will really have trouble understanding that. The Spider-Man movie took like 30 years to make.
Absolutely.
And I used to joke with people that I worked on every version of the Spider-Man movie except the ones that actually got made. Those I didn't work. The ones that got made I didn't work on, but I worked on at least 8 other ones. Like I say, the big break for us is when we got the X-Men on the X-Men animated series. And even then, it was a big question whether or not they were going to allow us even a second season. And then we finally got Spider-Man on. The concept of having, Iron Man or those guys, eventually they did get on television, but those were all big battles to get that stuff on. Now I wouldn't be surprised if there is would be a Daredevil animated series.
Well, there was a Daredevil live action series, which is
there was a Daredevil live action series.
That's right. Greater accomplishment.
Like I said, I was just wondering if there was an absolute reason why an animated version was never done. And the other half of this, and because this is in 2 parts, so to speak. Franz and I have had some previous conversations about the classic What If comic books and whether or not we think that they would make great animated episodes, especially since the What If streaming series is on the way. What are your thoughts on that type of interpretation for now?
I think the What If worked for the comic books at the time when we were doing them. because we had a very strict continuity, a very strict consistency.
Okay.
And, you know, the big stories were the big stories. These days, everything is a big story. So I don't know if What If would even sell today as a comic book. I'm not really sure what they're doing with the animated series. I think they're doing What Ifs based on the movies.
Yes, sir. That's exactly what's going on.
And you know, I haven't seen, you know, the series isn't out yet, so obviously I haven't seen anything. So I really, you know, until I actually see it, I would hesitate to discuss anything.
Understood.
You know, I'm curious as to what they're going to do.
I'm curious about something else. Are you as revered as you deserve to be in the halls of Marvel comic books? Are you, so in other words, when you walk through Marvel offices, are you a big shot? Are you like, oh my God, Tom Defalco's walking into the building? The former editor-in-chief, do you still have clout, or is that, have you been disconnected from the current Marvel?
Well, you know, obviously the Marvel offices have been closed for the last year. And previous to that, you know, every once in a while I'd meet some of the guys, you know, Tom Brevoort, David Bogard, CJ, you know, and you know, Joe Quesada, meet him for lunch. And, you know, we'd usually meet at the restaurant. So I wasn't even going up to the offices and that sort of stuff. I don't know whether or not, you know, anybody would even know who the heck I was if I came up to Marvel at this stage of the game, or particularly cared. I can tell you a funny story. About 10 years ago, somebody needed me to do some Spider-Man stuff. Somebody called up and said, yeah, we need some something for a custom comic, and you should talk to this guy about doing the Spider-Man. So I heard from this lovely young lady who said to me, yeah, now Spider-Man's powers work a special way, so we're going to send you some reference. And
oh my God.
Talking to you.
Yeah, and I said, okay, fine, send me the reference. And she said, have you ever worked for Marvel before? And I said, yeah, I've done a few things.
So she had no idea it was you that she was talking to.
No, and I got the reference, and it cracked me up, because the next time she called, she said, did you understand the stuff that you read? needed to be explained to you. And I said,
I wrote it.
I said, did you look at the byline of the guy who wrote this reference?
Exactly. You wrote it, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh.
That's great. That's a great story.
And you know, but there were, you know, I didn't hold her responsible for that, because, you know, she's somebody working in licensing. I've probably been there a year or two.
No, but you know, you should know. You should read the byline. You should know who you're talking to. If you're talking to Tom Defalco, you know, you weren't a 2-3 year writer. You were the editor-in-chief. You were a 20-year man. There should be a level of respect.
Well, you know, some of the new assistants and that sort of stuff, they don't know. They don't care. You know, as far as they're concerned, I'm some senile old man who, you know, when I was a boy, comic books cost $1.
Well, for the record, as far as we're concerned, we revere you and we value you and we appreciate you. And we do that to this day. Now, let me ask you this, a little bit controversy, because the show has to have a little juice. You understand that. Clone Wars and the Clone Wars saga. What's your take on that? Because it was, you know, not very well received, and I may have been one of the people that didn't like it very much. I may have been, I don't know, but go on.
Well, you know, for something not well received, it's been reprinted a heck of a lot of times.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
And they've done, you know, 2 or 3 different versions of the same story that is not well received.
Yes, they have.
All right, here's the story with the Clone Saga. It was only supposed to last about 6 months. The original plan that the creators knew. They knew part 1 and part 2. They did not know part 3. Part 1, the clone comes back. And we eventually discover that, now we didn't know that his name was going to be Ben Reilly, but I'm going to call him Ben Reilly for now. We
Okay.
discover that Ben is the original and Peter is the clone. Ben takes over and becomes the new Spider-Man. Peter goes off and lives happily ever after with Mary Jane. All right, that's part 1, part 2.
Okay.
That's what the creators knew.
Okay.
What they didn't know was part 3. Ben gets into big trouble. Peter has to come back. Oh, we got it wrong. Peter is the original. Ben
There
is the clone.
There you go.
Peter's, is now going to be a married Spider-Man with a baby, more responsibility, because, hey, Spider-Man's all about responsibility.
Absolutely.
And Ben is going to be spun off into his own book, and we're going to have we're going to call him the Scarlet Spider, but essentially we're going to have a single Spider-Man for those who wanted a single Spider-Man, and we're going to have a married Spider-Man for those who want like the married Spider-Man.
Interesting.
And that was the plan. What now this is how horrible the Clone Saga was being people reacting to. So around the time the Clone Saga comes out, I have to go to a comic book convention. I go to the table where you get your badges, and I give my name, and the guy behind it says, "Tom Defalco. Oh, you're working on the Clone Saga." I said, yes, I am. And the guy next to him says, "Oh, I hate the Clone Saga." The guy with the thing says, "I love the Clone Saga." The guy next to him says, "I hate it. I love it. I hate it." And I'm standing there waiting for my badge, and everybody behind the table is arguing about the Clone Saga. Right? And I'm standing there and I say, "Excuse me, can I have my badge?" Guy gives me the badge. Got my badge. I turn around and I realize all the comic book professionals standing behind me are now arguing about the Clone Saga.
Oh my
I love
God.
it. I hate it. I love it. I hate it. So I'm thinking, wait a minute. The fans are arguing. The professionals are arguing. This is probably one of the most successful series we've done in a long time. Everybody has an opinion about it.
I was going to ask you your take on that, because you're right, controversy, right? If we're talking about it.
So what happened? Why did it last so long? All right. Shortly after it started, Marvel decided they're going to make some changes. One of the changes, they fired me as editor-in-chief. Terrible thing. So I got to go back to full-time writing. I used to threaten every once in a while when I would argue with the president of the company, would say to me, what would happen if we fired you? And I'd say, my income would probably double.
Oh.
And I was wrong. It was a lot better than that.
Oh my God! Wow! Wow!
I shouldn't gloat. And so Marvel decided to fire me. Marvel then decided to buy its own comic book distributor. Very, very stupid idea. And then Marvel decided to cut their publications in half. An even stupider idea, having just bought your own distributor.
Yeah.
When Marvel announced that it bought its own distributor, sales on every comic book in the Marvel line fell down 60%.
Wow.
And years later, somebody was trying to blame that on the Clone Saga. And I remember looking and saying, yeah, the Clone Saga was so bad that sales on Captain America fell down 60%. Only 2 lines of comic books started to recover from that 60% drop. The X books and the Spider books, because of the Clone Saga. Because the Clone Saga was selling better than anything else that Marvel was doing. They
Interesting.
decided to keep it, and it ended up running for close to 2 years. It was never supposed to run that long.
Interesting. Interesting. Interesting.
And,
That's again,
and-
this is, and again, I can't thank you enough for this, because these are the little tidbits that the public needs to know, and our perception of things is very different than what the actual reality.
You know,
The actual
and-
reality.
And nowadays, when I go to comic book conventions, you know, people tell me the two storylines they love, Maximum Carnage and Clone Saga.
Is that right? Is that right?
You know,
And as you said, they've been, you know, reproduced, reprinted. They're iconic, and so yeah.
yeah, they
Yeah,
keep reprinting it over and over again, so that we must have done something right.
So, and in the interest of not keeping you for the rest of the day and the week, because we could talk to you forever,
Oh yes.
I want to ask some questions, like, and I'm probably going to forget most of them, but okay, certain questions that I wonder about, with respect to superheroes. So, and you're the expert because you know the field. Iron Fist. How does that work exactly? Does it become a metal fist, and therefore he could punch through a wall with it, or does it become the concussive energy explosion that he can do things much more than a hammer, for example, could do?
Well, I've always thought that he concentrates his chi,
Yes.
and puts all of the focus into the hand, so it is like a fist, you know, a fist of iron.
Right.
And you know, it's just a concentrated effort that for a couple of seconds that fist can punch through anything.
Now, punch through any.
Okay.
What does that mean? Punch through anything? Does it become a hammer? Like the
No,
fist
no,
literally-
no, it's still his fist, but the energy, it's kind of like the whole energy of his entire being is in that fist. It's one concentrated.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no. Listen, trust me. I know comic books. I know pretty good. No, I know his hand doesn't become a hammer. It's still his fist. What I'm trying to understand is, and I have an opinion, but I want to go to the expert. Does the fist, right, become hardened like steel and therefore can punch through wall? Or is it more like it becomes a vibrating sort of energy that becomes like an explosion of a dynamite? Like it blows up, like, because when he punches something, he'll send Iron Man flying through. He'll punch through. So it's more than just me taking a hammer and swinging it. It becomes more powerful than that. So I was just wondering, what's the original intent for that?
I can't tell you what the original intent is, but it becomes like almost like Thor's hammer for a few moments.
Okay.
Interesting.
But it doesn't last. It's only for a few seconds.
Of course. Do you have any questions like that, Kevin?
If you had the opportunity, and I'm personally, this is a curiosity. If you had the opportunity to go to DC and work on Batman, what would you do?
I don't know.
Would you want to? Would you want to work on Batman?
I'm not sure if I'd want to work on Batman, because you know, Batman, you know, the street level crime and that sort of stuff, and if I'm going to do that sort of stuff, I have better markets.
Oh, okay.
For that kind of material.
You sound like when you were answering for Thor. I'm sure you could do a great job at it.
Yeah, me
Like-
too.
You know, I just, you know, it's weird. I'm not the kind of guy that has, you know, a burning, you know, I don't have like a Batman story in my back pocket. I have this Batman story of always, or Captain America story, or any of those other stories. The only stories I have in my back pocket are things that I'm, you know, are the next couple of jobs I'm going to be working on.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
You know,
That's
I don't waste time thinking about, you know, hey, if I ever got the opportunity to do Captain America, you know, what would I do?
Okay.
If the opportunity ever presents itself, then I'll come up with the ideas. But otherwise, I'm just, you know, I've got so many other things to work on.
that makes sense. It's an interesting answer. It's a very interesting answer because at least I know myself. I spend a lot of my time imagining what I would do with Spider-Man. So it's interesting that you don't have. First of all, you've already purged that because you've done it,
Right.
and second of all, you're busy enough doing other things. So you need to use that energy for that creativity. But it is interesting that you don't have a, oh my God, there's a Spider-Man story I would love to tell, or a Hulk story I would love to. That is fascinating to me. I find that interesting.
Yeah, you know, so at one point somebody, you know, called me and said, "Hey, how'd you like to do a Spider-Man story?" And I said, "You know, you have anything else you'd like me to do?"
Wow.
I said,
Wow.
"Because, you know,
You've done it.
Right.
I love Peter Parker, but if I never do another Spider-Man story, I'm fine."
Wow.
You know, the only character I could ever conceive going back to would be Spider-Girl.
And so it's an honor. It truly is. And I want you to know that it's an honor and it's a pleasure for us to have you and for you to take the time to be so kind, to be
Yes,
so
sir.
open, and to be so you know, just cool with us. It means a lot. It really does. And so we want to thank you for that, for taking
Yes,
that
sir.
time.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I also want to push a new project.
Yes, please.
Ron Friends, Sal Buscema, and I are going to be doing a new comic book called Mr. Right. It's coming out in the fall or the winter of 2021.
Okay.
I'm not sure, you know, I know the people that we're hooked up with, but they're talking to a different publisher. So I'm not sure exactly who's going to, you know, which logo is going to be on the
I
comic.
understand.
I thought it was going to be
understand.
one logo, and they've told me, "Oh no, we've been talking to somebody else. We have a different thing." But please look for Mr. Right. It's you know, the kind of you know, hoo-ha fun and games that Ron Friends, Sal Buscema, and I are kind of known for.
That's fantastic.
Thank
That's
you
great.
so much. Mr. Defalco, before we conclude, I want to take a moment, if you'll allow me, to tell you, because you've kind of questioned your own status within things, and I want you to know that for me, one of the reasons why you stand out is that I am disabled. I have cerebral palsy. And when I was younger and spent as many years and as much time as I did within hospitals, the work that you all did, meaning yourself, Mr. Friends, Mr. Buscema, and a number of others, Mr. Ramita, you all kept me going in that hospital bed. A lot of your, you know, the superhero work, I even have some of your Archie comics, but a lot of the superhero stuff that you had created, the Spider-Man books, the Thor material, you kept me going from the inside when the doctors themselves said that I was failing and would probably never be able to even leave the hospital. So I thank you from that side of it, sir, all the way around.
Thank you so much. That means more to me than you could possibly imagine. Thank you, sir. I'm glad we could help in whatever way we could.
Thank you, sir.
This looks like a job for Superman.
Look, it's Spider-Man.
The dynamic duo return next week. Don't miss it.